Coming up on BG24 Sports, Bowling Green baseball took down MAC leading Central Michigan this weekend. Does the team have a shot at the top spot in the MAC East?
Plus, one former Falcon is flying high on NBA draft boards. We'll talk about what experts are saying about Rashaun Holmes.
And the Cavs took down the Celtics in the first round of the NBA playoffs, but we'll talk about why there are concerns in Cleveland. All this and more coming up right here on BG24 Sports.
It's un-Falcon believable coverage that you won't get anywhere else. This is BG24 Sports.
Welcome to BG24 Sports. I'm Katie Warnke.
And I'm Terry Lash. And it was a big weekend for Falcon baseball as the team went up to Central Michigan and got the 2-1 series victory over the Chippewas. It was a victory on Friday night, a loss on Saturday, and a win on Sunday that propelled the Falcons further up those MAC standings. If we take a look at some of the stats from this weekend against Central Michigan, you got to start off with the bats. 32 hits for the Falcons. Still not doing terrible in the field. 5 errors over the course of 3 games. 13 runs, starting to put up some runs on the board, and 14 strikeouts total for the series.
Absolutely. And if we look at some of the this offense, on Sunday it was a huge offensive day for the Falcons. You said there were 32 hits on the weekend. 16 of those hits came on Sunday. Greg Basilega had 3 RBIs. He went 3 for 4 on Sunday. Matt Smith went 3 for 4. Trey Keegan 3 for 5. The bats came out on Sunday.
You're right, and the most important thing I saw that list was Matt Smith. We've seen Basilega. We've seen Trey Keegan. Matt Smith isn't a name that we've been seeing about. We also saw Brian Bean in there, went 3 for 4. A guy that's been kind of struggling this year, perennially one of the best players. So we talked all year long about players playing their best baseball at the end of the season, and it looks like they're coming into their own.
Absolutely, and Zach Carey had a good day on Sunday pitching-wise as well, but we had to take a look at Jason Link on Friday. Link did outstanding. He pitched 7 innings, 9 strikeouts. That is major league right there with 9 strikeouts in 1 game.
Last week we talked about Zach Carey. Here's the clear ace of this team. Another victory this weekend, but now that they have another pitcher that they can rely on with Link, showing that he can get those Ks and can get a win when he goes on the road against a tough opponent, that is a big deal for this baseball team.
Absolutely, and like the last 10 games, the Falcons are 6-4 in their last 10 games, and this is the most important part of the schedule when you take on a lot of these MAC teams when you're trying to get ahead in the MAC standings.
We're talking about a team that was at the bottom of the standings, picked 5th in the MAC East alone going into the year, and now they're getting some wins against some of the best MAC teams, and they're just kind of slowly climbing their way towards the top. It's going to be an interesting home stretch, but they are in striking distance. They
absolutely are. If we take a look at the MAC standings, Ohio is 11-7 in the MAC East, and we have Kent State at 11-7 as well, but a change here. Bowling Green is now 3rd in the MAC East, above Akron with a 9-9 record. Still, like you said, in striking distance of the top spot, but these next few games are really going to matter.
Absolutely, and Ohio's the team that the Falcons already won a series against this season. Kent State coming up, as is Akron. So the top 3 teams are all right there with each other. So it's going to be very close for these MAC teams. If we go to the remaining schedule, like we were talking about, Akron coming up on the 1st of May, Kent State coming up, and finishing the year against Buffalo, a team that the Falcons should be able to get this series against before that MAC tournament. So a lot of games that the Falcons can win. Still so much to be decided in the MAC East.
Absolutely. Akron and Kent State are 2 of those games that are extremely important for Bowling Green to get, especially Kent State since they are 2nd in the MAC East right now. But one team that we really can't forget about, it's not considered a MAC game, but they are going against Toledo this week. That is not considered a MAC game, even though they are in the MAC. But Toledo, they're on a 2-game win streak against Ball State, the series this past weekend, and Toledo is also 2nd in the MAC West, so another very tough team for the Falcons to go up against.
And Katie, it's Toledo. It's the team up north. You have to beat your rivals every single year. It's an important game to these guys. It is not a MAC series like we've mentioned, but it still matters. There's still a lot to play for this Falcon baseball team.
Absolutely is.
You're right, and when we come back, we have some more Falcons to talk about, but we're going to move over to the hard word and Rashaun Holmes on the Falcon basketball team as he moves on to further his career, possibly in the NBA. We'll talk all about that when we come back.
Welcome back. In a recent Bleacher Report article, Rashaun Holmes was named in the top 10 upperclassmen going into the 2015 NBA draft. He was named 8th, and that may not seem like a big feat, but when you're on that list with guys like Willie Cauley-Stein from Kentucky, Frank Kaminsky, and Sam Decker from Wisconsin, That's pretty big for Rashaun Holmes.
Well, it's huge for Rashaun Holmes. Not only was he named the 8th best upperclassman, 4th best senior on that entire list. You have to think, he's being compared to the likes of Frank Kaminsky, the NCAA Player of the Year case. So this is really big praise for Rashaun Holmes.
Absolutely. So if we take a look at some of his career stats, he's averaged 11.5 points per game throughout his career here at Bowling Green, 554 field goal percentage, 353 from the three-point line, and then 6.9 rebounds per game.
And got to remember, this Rashaun Holmes is a guy that came as a transfer his sophomore year. Didn't come until he was a sophomore. Came off the bench his sophomore year. Didn't start till last year as a junior, and then just completely elevated his game as a senior. So you know this is a guy that's just been improving every step along the way. He's not taking little steps. He's taking huge strides every single season.
Absolutely. He was named the MAC Defensive Player of the Year this year, named to the All-MAC first team and also the Portsmouth Invitational All-Tournament team. But if we take a look at, like you just said, he's really jumped his stats throughout the year. If we take a look at 2014, 2015 to the 2013 and 2014 season, you can see his points per game has increased. His rebounds per game has increased.
And he's also, some of the things that you can't measure on the stat sheet, his leadership. It was something that you could see this year of Rashaun Holmes that we didn't see when he was a junior or a sophomore. At the end of the game, who had the ball in their hands? It was Rashaun Holmes for the Falcons. So you know that there's just another element to Rashaun Holmes that we didn't see beforehand.
Absolutely. Like you said, that leadership that really needed to come out this year.
Absolutely.
With the new coach under Chris Jans, former head coach Chris Jans, under the new coaching system, Rashaun Holmes, we really needed to see him come out as a leader, and he did exactly that. But if we take a look, just for some fun here, we're going to compare him to Frank Kaminsky. If we see not too much disparity there in the stats between these two guys.
You see, the thing about Frank Kaminsky, of course, Player of the Year is going to be a first-round draft pick, but I think he's leveled off. You know where you're going to get with Frank Kaminsky, and he's going to be a great player, probably a solid pro for years to come in the NBA. The thing about Rashaun is he's still very raw, a guy that was a sixth man his sophomore year, then an improved player last year, and then a Defensive Player of the Year this year. Yes, he was a senior, so you expect him to be fully polished, but for a late JUCO transfer, his game has no limits at this point. He needs the right coaching staff, but it's kind of like the NBA draft. You want to draft on potential. You never know what's going to happen in 3 or 4 years with some of these players, and Rashaun could be one of those gift wrap packages late in the second round.
He absolutely could be. If you put him on a team that really has potential to go far, you don't know how good Rashaun Holmes could be. On the Falcons, he did lead the team in points. He was the star for the Falcons, but maybe he could be the star on another team in the NBA. I think you're right, where they do look for that potential. But now, we're going to compare him to another guy that everybody knows across the nation, Willie Cauley-Stein from Kentucky. Again, the points for Rashaun Holmes are clearly in his favor here, but I'm going to sort of say what you did here. Willie Cauley-Stein, they know what they can get from him. Stein's a junior. Cauley-Stein's a junior. He's played, you know, a lot of games at Kentucky. He knows that leadership experience as well, but maybe there's room for Rashaun Holmes there.
You're right. Cauley-Stein is a good comparison because he's another raw player. Yes, he's a junior as well, but it's a guy that didn't start playing basketball until he got to Kentucky, play football in high school, and is just another raw athlete. Maybe more athletic than Rashaun Holmes, a little bit taller than Rashaun Holmes, but the same type of deal. The two guys are just going to jump out of the gym at the combine, really put the stats up there, going to impress some scouts. Maybe someone puts a chance on him. Of course, Cauley-Stein, probably a top 10 pick, but Rashaun Holmes just might be able to edge in the draft, and if not, might find himself in the D-League somewhere next year on NBA roster. Maybe you get a call-up. So there's always that shot when you have a guy with a lot of athleticism and untapped potential.
Absolutely, and one thing that you did mention in passing there was that Cauley-Stein, he has the height, and we've talked about Cauley-Stein's height. We've talked about Kaminsky throughout all of our shows, and that Kentucky and Wisconsin definitely have the height on their team, but Rashaun Holmes has that height too. He's 6'8", where Cauley-Stein and Kaminsky are 7 foot. So it really does put him in the same league as those teams. It's just maybe Rashaun Holmes didn't have really the opportunity to unlock his full potential at Bowling Green, but an NBA team could give him that.
Well, another thing about Rashaun Holmes, he's had to play the center spot these last few years as kind of an undersized 6'8", but he can jump out of the gym, and he's going to be a guy that's been used to playing against guys bigger size than him, and he's going to been in that position before. He's going to be in that position his entire career in the NBA, but he's a defensive stopper. He's going to get those blocks because he has great timing, he has great athleticism, and he just has natural basketball instincts. That's going going to transition to the NBA if he would get there one day?
Absolutely. I guess we'll find out coming up this summer, though, where Rashaun Holmes.
Should be very exciting.
Absolutely. But after the break, we are going to stay with it in basketball. The Cavs beat the Celtics in the first round of the NBA playoffs. But we're going to talk about why there is some concern in Cleveland. Stay with us.
And welcome back, and bring out your brooms because it is a sweep in the Eastern Conference first round as the Cleveland Cavaliers swept the Boston Celtics 4-0. But there's a little bit of concern with the Cavaliers because J.R. Smith and Kevin Love could be missing some time in their next series, but for different reasons, Katie.
Absolutely. We had just found out today that Kevin Love will be missing 2 weeks due to a separated shoulder from the MRI scans earlier today. And now let's take a look at what missing Kevin Love means for this team. In the playoffs, Kevin Love has averaged 14.3 points per game, 41.5% field goal percentage, and then from the three-point line, 42.9%. He's been a big key player for the Cavs in this series against Boston.
You got to think short-term, huge loss. If the Bulls win tonight, then the series doesn't start sooner. That's going to be a down-low presence that the Cavs just don't have, and they don't have the outside stretch four option of Kevin Love either outside the perimeter. That's going to extend Joakim Noah and Taj Gibson, and is going to give the Cavs a great matchup there. But you also have to think long-term of Kevin Love. This is a guy they traded Andrew Wiggins for, their first overall pick of the draft last year, a guy that looks like an absolute stud, has potential to be an all-star in years to come, and this is it. This is the Cavs' year. They're going all or nothing with Kevin Love, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving and company, and there's a chance that Kevin Love doesn't resign. I know a lot of Cavs fans don't want to think about it, but he's only under contract till this year, is going to have to resign if things go south with the Cavaliers in this series because they are missing Love and J.R. Smith. Who knows what's going to happen going further?
Absolutely, and with Kevin Love, and if we even just take a look at Game 3, Game 4, he obviously did not play that much because of that shoulder. But Game 3, he was the second leading scorer on the team. He scored 23 points in that game against the Celtics for Game 3. And then even in the first game, he was third in scoring. So behind LeBron and Kyrie Irving, you really have Kevin Love. And without Kevin Love, that opens up a wide gap, and including now possibly J.R. Smith.
Absolutely. J.R. Smith with an elbow to the face of Crowder on Game 4 against the Celtics. A vicious backhand. So it seems like it's almost automatically he's going to be suspended, but we don't know for how long. It's going to be very interesting to see what Commissioner Adam Silver has to say about J.R. Smith and how he's going to play this series. Could it be 2 games? Could it be 1 game? Could it be Nuggets? Could it be 4 games? We don't know, Katie. It's all up in the air.
Absolutely, and Smith is saying that the foul was not intentional, that he did not mean to hit him in the face. But like you said, we don't know how long he will be out. But if he is out and if they do play the Bulls, this will be a huge blow for the Cavs, especially after losing Kevin Love. Smith is averaging 9.8 points per game in the playoffs. He's also been a key player for this Cavs team.
Yeah, a guy that they picked up at the trade deadline and has just kind of juggernaut the team offensively. A guy that can shoot the 3 at any given time, not afraid to put it up. He's like a microwave because he can heat up at any single time on the court, and that's what J.R. Smith brings you. And he also has a lot of experience. A guy that's been in the league for a long time. It's been meshing very well with this Cavs team, and without him, for however long it's going to be, is going to really hurt the Cavaliers.
It absolutely is. We saw him in Game 3. Again, just like Love, he really came out in Game 3 with 15 points. He was third on the team in Game 3 with the Cavs for scoring behind Love and then LeBron as well. So again, yeah, it will be another big blow for the Cavaliers if J.R. Smith is out. Like you said, he's really experienced. He's been in the league for 10 years. He knows what you can and can't do. And I think for him to have this happen to him and have a foul like that is it's really uncalled for, and it's not his best move here.
Yeah, not the best move for J.R. Smith. Very unprofessional, and it's going to make it really interesting against the Bulls coming up, possibly.
Absolutely. If we take our look at some of the predictions as well, if they do play the Bulls, I think it will be a very tough series for the Cavaliers.
I think it would have been anyways, but now, especially with Love gone and J.R. Smith possibly out for an extended period of time, it is going to be really tough for the Cavaliers.
Absolutely.
But when we come back, it is hot or not. We give you our hottest takes from some of the hottest topics in the world of sports. So stay with us.
Welcome back. It's time for a little game called Hot or Not. Terry and I have a topic, and we give you our opinion on whether they are
hot
or not. This week, we have topics from all professional sports in the country. But first, we're going to keep it in the NBA, and we're going to start out with Blake Griffin. Hot or not, Terry?
Not. I'm going to say Blake Griffin is not hot, and here's why. Because he's not leading this Clippers team. It's being led by Chris Paul right now. Blake Griffin is getting money to play like he's leading the team, but it's a team effort right now. Chris Paul, the cast of DeAndre Jordan, J.J. Redick, and I just don't see Blake Griffin being that leader that I think the Clippers expect him to be.
Terry, I have got to go with hot. I think Blake Griffin is hot. While you said Chris Paul is leading this team, that is not exactly what the stats say. In the regular season, Blake Griffin has 21.9 points per game above Chris Paul. Now, Chris Paul does edge Griffin a little bit in the playoffs with points per game, only by 1.2 though. So Blake Griffin, he's definitely hot. Now, next topic though, we're moving it over to the NFL. Jameis Winston, a hot topic in the NFL.
Yes.
Ever since when they won the national title.
Yes.
Yeah, ever since then, he's been a hot topic in the NFL. But what do you think his career is going to be like in the NFL? Hot or not?
Not. I think Jameis Winston is going to have a bad career in the NFL, and here's why. I think he has all the talent in the world, but we've seen it once with Johnny Manziel. You can't cry wolf for too long and not see the signs. Johnny Manziel ended up in rehab, didn't play much his first year in the NFL, and Jameis Winston kind of walked the same path in college. The red flags are surrounding him, and I think the NFL teams need to pay attention.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with not. I think Jameis Winston is too immature for the NFL. We've seen it with Johnny Manziel, how he sort of suffered in the National Football League with his immaturity, and I think that is going to happen to Jameis Winston just the same way. But now we are going to move it over to the MLB, some Major League Baseball here. Adam Wainwright, the Cardinals' ace, is out with an injury after batting. What are the Cardinals' chances of winning the NL Central now?
I say hot. I think the Cardinals are still going to pull it out. I know Adam Wainwright's their ace, but this is a team that year in and year out finds the way to get it done. I'm not picking against the Cardinals.
All right, I've got to go with not. I don't think their chances are hot of winning the NL Central. I think when you have offensive teams like the Reds and the Cubs and the Pirates, you need that ace pitcher in there. Without him, that is definitely going to hurt the Cardinals' chances. But now we're going to keep it in Major League Baseball. Now, after this Scherzer and Wainwright injury while batting, what are the chances of having a designated hitter in the National League?
The chances are not hot, Katie. Here's why. The NL is a league based on history and just a lot of tradition that they would just be throwing away if they took away pitchers being able to hit. So there's no way we see a DH.
All right, I'm going to go with hot. I think that the chances of having a DH in the NL are very high, especially after these pitchers are getting injured while batting. I think it's time for a change, and I think the National League will have to face up, and they're going to have to make that change. But now, back to the NBA. We started with the NBA. We're going to end with the NBA.
Let's go back to the hardwood.
What are the Clippers' chances of beating the Spurs?
Not hot. You got to go with the experience of the San Antonio Spurs, a team that's been to the NBA Finals the last 2 years. Are you really going to pick against Tim Duncan in the crunch?
You know what? I am. I think the Clippers' chances of beating the Spurs are very hot. They had an overtime loss in Game 2 and then a complete blowout. The Spurs completely blew out the Clippers in Game 3, but in Game 4, the Clippers came back, and I think they're going to be on that roll, and I think they're going to continue to be on that roll into the semifinals in the second round.
That's an interesting pick, Kate. We'll see how it all plays out.
Absolutely. Now, when we come back, we are going to have our picks of the week for games that you guys should watch. Stay with us. Welcome back. All semester we have been giving you our picks of the week. After each week we keep track of our records. And with this being the last show of the semester, the finals are in. Adding up my picks, Terry's picks, and Studio Crew's picks, I end up in the middle with a 16-12 record. I'm very sad to say that. Studio Crew was last at 13-15, and I hate to say this even more, but Terry is in first with an 18-10 record.
I just like to thank all my fans out there, the Lashtag fan crowd that's been watching all year long. Watch me pile up these victories and just realizing that Terry Lash is the mecca of sports knowledge here at Bowling Green. It's been proven on the BG24 Sports Show. And it's been a lot of fun, Katie, competing with you guys, but the record stays right here. Right here in my heart.
Yeah, you know what, Terry? That was rude. That hurt a little bit. That hurt a little bit, Terry.
Had to be done.
But now that it's the end of the semester, we are not going to give our picks of the week. Maybe because I don't want to maybe get the third spot there in the bottom. But we're just going to talk about some of our games of the week to watch.
Okay.
And I've got to go with the Spurs and Clippers. I think that is a very good series. We've already seen that it's been a good series. Yeah. Tied at 2-2. I think you definitely have to keep an eye out for that one.
You gotta love playoff basketball. What you gotta love even more? The NFL draft is my favorite sporting event of the year, and of course there's so much intrigue. Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, who knows what's going to happen? That's what I'm going to be watching on Thursday.
Absolutely. The NFL draft has so much speculation around it this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Who knows? Maybe Leonard Williams goes number 2. What do the Buccaneers do at the number 1 spot? It's my favorite sporting event of the year. I say it all the time. What's going to happen? I don't know, Katie.
Absolutely. There's also talk, though, of Mariota possibly being traded for Phillip Rivers as well.
Yeah, that's
the
a good
Chargers
point.
Do need another quarterback. Rivers is not as young as he used to be, so that might not be a bad move for the NFL
Yeah, it should be really interesting, and we're not holding any punches back right now, and neither will Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao this Saturday night. The fight of the century finally going to happen, and who's going to come out on top, Katie? I don't see Floyd Money Mayweather losing for the first time of his career.
I don't either. I'm going to have to go with you on that one as well. I think it's going to be a very good fight.
It should be. I mean, I'm laughing about thinking about it as well because there's just so much time going into this fight. For years, we've been waiting on this, and finally, we get to see the Pac-Man versus the Money Man and Floyd Mayweather. I know it's going for $90 per pay-per-view, but I'm going to go to B-Dubs myself to watch it.
Yeah, I might see you there, Terry. So.
I hope so. It should be an exciting time.
Absolutely. And what is a sports show of the last semester where I don't laugh? You know,
it had to be done.
Throw it all
Our
out
last
there.
sports show ever. Might as well go out the way we came in, laughing hysterically.
Yep, absolutely. It's been a fun time, Terry. But now that is all for BG24 Sports tonight and for the rest of the semester. Check us out on YouTube for more videos.
And follow us on Twitter and Instagram for the last time. I'm Terry Lash.
And I'm Katie Warnke. Have a great night.